Before I start this video, I'd just like to ask you to subscribe for new videos every week. So in this video, we're going to be discussing how to become a registered nurse, and the majority of this content is going to be Canadian based. However, the same principles apply for the most part in several United States. Topics being discussed in this video include different pathways, including a couple pathways from high school, from mature student status, which means you've been out of high school for a certain amount of time, as well as from being an RPN, or in the States an LPN. And there's also a way you can transfer from a different university degree. And then once we discuss the process of getting a degree, we're going to discuss the registration process that follows. So, like I said, the first step is to get a degree. Before you can become a registered nurse, you have to get your degree, and then you can start the registration process. So, this first path we're going to be talking about is from high school with good grades. And so some of the requirements for this step are being in high school, and basically you have to get into university, and that's not as easy as people think it is. There's most universities in Canada require a very, very high average out of your high school courses. Most universities require between an 85 and a 95, and I'm willing to say that the vast majority of decent universities require, very close to 90, if not in the 90s. I know when I got into university, my average going in was low 90s. I think it was like 91 or 92. And the university is going to list several courses that you're going to need. And some of these courses include, most often they require an English, a biology, a chemistry, and at least one math, being either data management, calculus, advanced functions. One of those maths are typically required. And a new requirement is some universities are making individuals write these new, they're called CASPER tests, which stands for Computer-Based Assessment for Sampling Personal Characteristics. This is new. This is not something that I experienced going into university, but it depends on what university you're going into. And the best way to check this is to look on the university of choice, look on their website. Almost all the time they have admission requirements for future students. It's always under the future student category. Now, once you're in university, it's going to take typically 4 years is the standard amount of time. Now, there's a couple different paths you can take. The first path is 4 years of just university, and that's the path I took, and nothing more I have to say about that. Another path is 2 years of college and then 2 years of university. These are often collaborative programs where a university and a college has joined up in order to develop one single nursing program. So you'll do typically the first 2 years at a college, and then you're going to do the next 2 years at a university. Another requirement is to pass all of your courses each year, and that might seem obvious, but it's especially important in nursing because of all your clinicals. And if you don't get through even one single course, if you don't pass it, then you're going to be a full year behind, because you're not going to be able to participate in the second, third, or even the fourth year clinicals. You have to get them all done on time. You basically cannot fail, or else you get pushed back a year, which isn't the end of the world, but ideally you want to keep on track to finish in 4 years. Another important thing is that in university, again, universities vary, but you're going to need to maintain a 65 average overall at least, and you're going to need to maintain a 70% in your nursing programs, meaning the nursing specific courses you take. Once you accomplish all of this, then you will obviously get your degree and you're ready to move on to the registration process. So let's say you're in university or in high school and you only have okay marks. They're not the best. They don't meet the requirements for the universities, which is totally fine. I know that when I was going into university, the first year I didn't have the marks. So what I had to do was I had to stay back in high school for an extra year. We called it 12B. Some people call it grade 13. Basically, all I did was bumped up my marks, and then I was accepted directly into university where I could start my program. Another path is from high school, you can do a pre-med program, and pre-med programs have a lot of benefits. Usually they're only 1 year, sometimes 2, and typically they have very lenient requirements to get in. And if you do one of these programs, you get good grades, you definitely get some knowledge that prepares you for university. You can reapply with this pre-med program in order to get into a college or university that has a Bachelor's of Science of Nursing degree. Once you do that, then obviously you have to get through university, then you get your degree, and it's time for the registration process. For mature students are students that either they've been out of school for a significant amount of time, and their high school grades aren't really valid anymore. They took high school. I can't remember. It's different for every university again, but usually it's a couple of years you haven't been in university. The university is not going to look back at your high school grades because a lot of time has passed. Similar to leaving high school with okay grades, it's recommended that you take a pre-med program, and then which is just like I discussed on the previous slide. Apply to university, hopefully you get in, get your degree, and then it's on to the registration process. Another path is becoming an RPN out of high school, or whatever method you take to become an RPN. And then you can take a bridging program that lets you get a degree. So there's a couple ways of doing this, and one of them is a bridging course. So you have your RPN, you've been working for a couple of years, and then you want to become an RN. So you can go back to school, take courses in order to get your degree, and basically you have to get back into a university or college that has one of these bridging programs. And in order to get into these, obviously requirements vary. It's best to check on the website of where you're interested in going, but oftentimes they require a certain amount of years of experience as an RPN. Oftentimes they require a letter of reference from someone you've worked with, as well as an interview and often a resume that needs to be attached to your application in order to get in order to get your degree, and then commence the registration process. So there's another method, which is through the university path, and sometimes universities offer a accelerated program, and basically if you are in a related field, not necessarily nursing obviously, but a field related to it, and you have good marks, you can sometimes transfer into an accelerated nursing degree, and then obviously get your degree and complete the registration process. But some of the requirements for this are you have to have good marks in the degree you're taking in order to qualify. And you also need to be able to, if you're taking an accelerated program, you need to be able to keep up with the pace of an accelerated program. Oftentimes they're very challenging, they're very labor intensive. Oftentimes you don't even get your summer, you just work right through. But they're very worth it, and you can, if you really want to be a nurse, it's going to be worth it for you to go through with it. Important thing to remember is that sometimes credits may transfer from courses that you've taken in the past. For example, one of my friends took a paramedic course, and he was able to scratch off a couple of the credits that were required for our university degree, And yeah, so some of the credits transferred. He had a little bit of a lighter course load, not by much, but it was enough to help him a little bit. So now that you've got your degree, it's time to move on to the registration process, which varies a little bit by province, but mostly it's the same. So you have your degree, but it's important to remember that you're not a nurse yet. You just have a nursing degree. In order to become a registered nurse, you have to register with your provincial college of nurses. And each province has their different regulating body, and you have to become registered with them in order to do nursing things. So you have your degree. Next thing you have to do is a what's called a jurisprudence or a law exam. This is an online exam. It's honestly, it's pretty easy. It's timed. You have unlimited rights, and it costs around $55 to write. And obviously this can change at any time, and again varies by province, but you get the gist. And basically what it tests is it tests the laws surrounding nursing in your province, as well as the ethical considerations that you're going to need to display in order to reflect your governing body's values. Then the final thing, the most dreaded thing, is obviously the NCLEX. So in Canada, I believe it was 2015 or 2016, could have been 2015, doesn't matter. They incorporated the NCLEX, and now anybody who is wanting to become a registered nurse has to write this exam. So that's pretty much the same exam that is done in the United States, and it's the last major step you need to take in order to become a registered nurse. It's very pricey to write. It's about $365 per attempt, and that's per attempt, obviously. So if you fail, you have to pay another $365, which it isn't the end of the world, but it's you don't really want to do it. It's unnecessary. And when the exam first came out, you only had 3 chances, but they've since changed that to unlimited, at least in the province I reside in. And the test tests almost everything you've covered in university or your college university program, and it is the final requirement you need in order to get registration. Once you get your results, you get a letter saying you passed, and then you just fill out a little bit more paperwork, send a police check to your governing body, and then it takes about 10 to 15 business days to process, and then you will become a registered nurse. So that's it. That's how you become a registered nurse. And thanks for watching. Please subscribe for new videos every week.